If you want equal justice for all and true freedom, lasting peace, then America, defend life.
These were the words of St. John Paul II on his way out of the United States in September 1987. During his visit to the United States that year, he called the nation beautiful and blessed, but reminded us for not the first time, but actually the second time, that Americans' greatness lies in how we treat the weakest and most defenseless. And this 250th year anniversary of the United States being founded, I had the privilege and honor of connecting with Liam McDonald, who rode across the United States from California to Delaware, so quite literally the entire width of the United States, raising money and awareness for the cause of biking for babies, for our mission, for our partnered pregnancy centers. I'll share, what we talked about here soon, but for Liam, the connection between his bike ride and the mission of biking for babies can boil down to one word that John Paul II also focused on: this concept of freedom, this concept that is so important to our nation, is defined in so many different ways. But we as Christians know that true freedom comes from Jesus Christ and nothing else. And in this special year, in this special time, we pray for a renewal of heart, a renewal of our culture, and a renewal of all of our souls oriented towards true freedom, especially as JP2 defines it. If you want equal justice for all and true freedom and lasting peace, then America defend life. Check out my interview with Liam now.
Well, my name is Liam McDonald. Um, I'm the middle of 10 children, so big Irish Catholic family. I grew up most of my life. I was born in Minnesota, but then we moved right when I was really young to Iowa, right outside Iowa City, which is where I grew up. I was homeschooled all the way through high school there. Really enjoyed it. Got really close with all my siblings. We moved to northern Indiana in 2020, and then shortly after that, I started attending Indiana University, uh, getting my bachelor's in business management and supply chain management.
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you involved in any like clubs or any activities when you were in school?
Yeah. So at IU or like in high school or like
Either both.
yeah. I mean, growing up, we always, I mean, we like biked around the neighborhood a little bit. I did taekwondo for 11, 12 years.
Okay.
And then we also played like soccer for a little bit. And then my mom led the some various like right to life um, things like in Iowa City. So we were very involved with different, pro-life and various ministries there from as young as I can remember. And then just been a lot more busy when we moved to Indiana, but definitely still, involved in that.
And if I understand right, you started was it a cycling club at school?
Yeah. So
Okay.
my roommate first my roommate back from school first kind of approached me my freshman year, and there's this big race on Indiana's campus called the Little 500. It's
Okay.
a bike race modeled after the Indianapolis 500, and it's the largest collegiate race in the world. It gets
Whoa.
about like 25 to 30,000 people attend every year, and it's a really big deal. And the teams there are like represented from different like fraternities or different clubs, and so my roommate was starting back up a team that had ridden, I think, twice before, just like on and off a long time ago, for our Newman Center. And so he was like, I heard like my senior year, I had ridden 100-mile ride with like no training because I was just like bored during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he was like, "Oh, so you have this background?" And I was like, "Not really, but okay." Um, it was like me and him and then another friend, and then one or two other guys joined. And I was like, I literally told him, I said, I want to put in just the minimum amount of effort to qualify, but I do not have the time to like, really dig into riding my bike. Um, and I really just fell in love with it.
Mm.
I didn't even have like a road bike or anything until that summer. Well, we didn't qualify that year, but it's probably a good thing because we were all over the place and we probably would have been disastrous in the race. But that summer, I got a road bike and I really just fell in love with biking.
Mm.
And then when I came back to school, my roommate told me he didn't have, the time to. He had other obligations, so he wasn't able to ride anymore. And so I was the only returning rider on the team. So a few months after the
Wow.
start, it was just me, and I had some other friends join, and then like a freshman join, and we just kind of built it from there. We got sponsors, and then we started a women's team for the women's Little 500 that year too, and then just the next we qualified that year, placed 21st, and just kind of continued to grow and
Wow.
um, yeah, it was really cool. Just like especially the support we received from the people around like our Catholic Center, Newman Center, um, just really incredible. Being able to like represent them and putting all this work and then we had like find a coach, have all these different things and all
Mm.
these different procedures into place to kind of have it continue after I graduate and it was really just such a blessing to be able to get to know these guys and one of the guys who I started with, he was the freshman. He graduated in 3 years, so he graduated with me this last spring.
Oh,
But
cool.
he's getting married in September, and all of the original team are all groomsmen in his wedding. And
Wow.
so it's really just been uh, it was just the most incredible experience. Getting to bike with them, pray with them,
Mm.
see them at mass, and just hundreds of hours of training together. And it just yeah. So that was kind of my intro into biking. Um, and yeah, the Little 500 itself is like purely sprinting.
Okay.
It's just incredibly intense. You're full effort, max heart rate the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a team sport, so it's kind of like relay. So you like do an exchange to the next guy who comes on. Um, but what I found I was really good at was endurance, and so I started trying like in the summers, kind of like in the off season where I'd have time to do whatever I was kind of interested in instead of like just training specifically for the event like we would
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of the year. That's when I kind of got interested in, doing some like longer time trials, these longer endurance events, and that's how I kind of got interested in all of that.
Awesome. So yeah, the Little 500 is very different than your Sea to Shining Sea ride that you just
Yeah,
completed, which was how many miles was it? 3,200?
3,400. Yeah,
Wow. So you went from San Diego, California to Delaware Beach in Delaware in how many days?
35 days.
35
Yeah,
days
five
you're on the
weeks.
road. So, I mean, you're right at 100 miles a day for 35 days straight. Did
Yeah.
you take any off days?
Yeah, so I had planned to take 2 rest days. I ended up taking three. And so just kind of moving mileage around and stuff like that. So I averaged a little over 100 miles on the days I actually rode. But yeah, I had
Wow.
yeah, 3 rest days.
That's amazing. 3 rest days in 35 days is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about some of those numbers. So you went 3,400 miles. What was your shortest day?
My shortest day was 40 miles.
Okay.
That was in Missouri. It was not supposed to be 40 miles. And I got, I don't want to say heat stroke, but it was definitely like heat illness in the early parts of it. I walked into a grocery store or like a gas station store and I couldn't remember where I was or what I was doing. And so I
Whoa.
was like, okay, I need to so I went across the street, I checked into this motel, and I just sat in the cool air conditioning for the rest of the day, slept,
Wow.
and tried to drink as much liquid as I could.
Yes.
And that was in, it's 95 degrees. Humidity is almost 100%. It's just, sun is just bearing down on you. And no matter how much like liquid you drink, it's like the salt content is what's hard to replace. And
Mm-hmm.
so the previous day I drank almost 5 gallons of liquid. Still, I'm a heavy sweater, but it still was, yeah, not enough.
That's incredible. Wow. I'm glad you're safe and healthy after that.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah. Next day I was perfectly fine.
Your body just needed a minute, just needed a
Yep.
chance to relax.
Yeah.
Good. So, shortest day, unplanned. What about your longest day? What was your longest
The,
day?
the longest day, I think I had 3 days longer than 150 miles. But
Wow.
my longest day was the day before that, um, going from, I think, Tipton, Missouri to St. Louis, Missouri.
Mm.
And that was 160 miles, and then a little over 5,000 feet of elevation.
I know elevation's a big thing. So, do you know how much elevation you climbed in the whole trip?
Yeah, it was 129,920 feet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That number is just wild.
yeah.
Have you ever experienced, I mean, anything like this before?
No, so the steepest hill I'd ever climbed was almost 500 feet before uh day one, and then day one I had a 3,500 foot climb up a mountain in California,
Oh
and
my
then a
God.
2,700 foot climb like 10 miles after that. And so
Wild.
just, yeah, absolutely insane.
So you got some speed then. What was your max speed you encountered on the road?
Um, on the downhill, yeah, I broke like every speed record I had, which is like those were all in races and stuff. So now I don't have that, but still. Um, yeah, so my fastest downhill speed, I think at one point I hit 53 miles an hour. And that's with about 50 pounds of gear.
Wow.
But there were times when I, would average like 40 to 50 miles an hour for 5, 10 mile stretches.
And how fast were you going just like on average?
On average, on the days where I didn't have any like hills, like on a flat day, I would go about 15 or 16 miles an hour. The
Okay.
average for the total trip with the elevation and everything was about 13 miles an hour, almost on the dot.
And then how many states did you end up riding through?
I believe 14.
14 states.
Yeah, but that's, yeah, really only like 12, but I went through the Four Corners Monument.
Oh,
So I counted Nevada and Utah.
absolutely. Get
Yeah.
them all in there.
Yep.
Which would you say is your favorite state that you rode through?
Arizona. It
Really?
was, yeah, I did not expect that. I thought Arizona was just going to be brutally hot, but I kind
Yeah.
of entered the state in like the middle of it and then went north pretty quick and to pretty high elevation. So the temperature wasn't bad at all.
Hmm.
And just, it was such a diverse, um, climate. Like there was just mountainous backgrounds like for a lot of it, and it like changed from kind of these more like brownish mountains to then like greenish mountains as I like approached the Grand Canyon, where I got to camp overnight, which was incredible.
Hmm.
Um, and it was there's like as you're approaching the Grand Canyon, these I came down like this one mountain and was on kind of this like rural high old highway road, and it was just like the most beautiful scenery. You're like maybe at 6,000 feet altitude, and on either side of you is just like these meadows and stuff for 50 miles. And then once you get to the Grand Canyon, it's just it's the Grand Canyon was on my left for like 20 miles. Then on my right is
Wow.
like the foresty area, which I also didn't know that there was forests in Arizona.
Hmm.
And then from there, you descend out of the Grand Canyon, like in the national park, and like literally instantly, it's completely different scenery. Like those, like the Red Rock, like mountains where you can kind of see the different layers.
Hmm.
Um, those were just incredible, like as a backdrop. And then I also got to go through like Monument Valley, so you have these like rock structures just coming right out of the ground. That was also really cool.
Our country's so beautiful and you don't get to slow down and see it. I
Yeah,
guess this afforded you that opportunity to see all of that.
yeah.
Amazing. All right, last number questions. What was the highest temp you encountered and what was the lowest temperature?
Oh, temp. The lowest was camping overnight in Colorado. It got down to 37 degrees. And
Whoa.
then the highest temperature was 102 degrees. And that was the second day in California.
So you really, I mean, truly experienced all kinds of life in this journey, all kinds of native culture, I bet, all kinds of people,
Yeah,
all kinds of struggles, all kinds of joys. Like it was a lot of life lived in a month for you.
it was, yeah, it's so much that like at the end of it, it was hard to remember all of it, you know? And
Mm,
so like going through it has been kind of like it's not I haven't like processed all of it very well, you know, yet. And so
no.
just kind of like I've been like going back through it and all this like all this footage I have and I'm kind of putting together this kind of video recap.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really fun, just kind of reflecting on all these different moments. Like completely forgot that like my first day out of San Diego, that was a day like you know, a month and a half ago when all those forest fires started.
Mm,
Um, and I was a few hours ahead of those. Um,
wow.
and I didn't even know to the end of the day. And I checked into this hotel, and the hotel clerk, you know, he saw I arrived on bike, and then he called my room, and he was like, "Just double checking you're not going into San Diego tomorrow, because they got all the
Mm,
roads closed." And I was like, "Well, even that was just really thoughtful to, you know, do that." But I was like, I did not know there were fires, and I looked, and it was, you know, like if I had planned to leave another day, it would have been probably another week before I could have left. But yeah, there's
wow.
just like so many small moments that, you know, it's with the amount of effort you're putting in, it's kind of hard just to remember all of it and stuff. So having
Yeah.
been able to document a good bit has been really fun to kind of go back and reflect on.
How would you say the Liam who left on day one of your journey was any different than the Liam who, finished in Delaware?
The Liam who finished in Delaware was a lot more tired. He
Rightfully so.
yeah. Um it really is such a good time to reflect. Um like it's so much time on the bike, you know, each day. And, you know, I'm a pretty social person, but I honestly found I don't know how to say this, but the time alone, like, not like almost like intoxicating and like in a way, like
Mm,
it provided such independence and kind of a sense of adventure that I'd never really felt. Like waking up each day, you know, I don't have, you know, like responsibility is good and it's good to have these things, but like for the first time ever, it was just like just me. I have just one place to get at the end of the day, and that's it. That's all there
mm,
is. That's all that's going on right now. And then just being on the road, you know, just observing nature and just silence and for you know, an average of 10, 11 hours a day is just, I don't know, it's incredible. It's, you know, I was never bored really at
mhm,
any point. Um, and so I think a lot of time just to, you know, a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting, a lot of praying. Um, and so just like I really think I kind of, yeah, uh, a little less nervous and anxious just about different things in life. You know, it really gives you perspective, you
mhm,
know, and like I run through a lot of difficulties. And I was the first day I was just really worried about getting to the end of the destination. You know, I was worried about all this equipment I had. I was worried I didn't have enough. I was, you know, it never really seemed possible to get to the end. But by
mhm,
like, you know, the middle of it, I was just like, I'm gonna make it. And
mhm,
and you know, and just kind of mellowed and got to the end. And like it was very, yeah, like the last day was very it was emotional in the morning and stuff. It like kind of it was kind of hitting me, but by the end of the day I was just, you know, I was like, all right, it's over.
mhm.
And not like, yeah, it just came and went. I don't know if what I'm saying is making a lot of sense, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
yeah,
feel like it was probably somewhat of almost like a shock to your all of your systems, right? Like not physically
yeah,
just your body, but reintegrating, I mean, back into your family life, into your
yeah, it was
community.
super
Like
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did not expect that first week transition to be as hard as it was.
Mm.
Um, and what was really strange is like, yeah, I was tired. I enjoyed sleeping for 15 hours a day, but um, uh, I really did miss, you know, being on the bike
Yeah.
for that many hours, which I did not expect. Like it was, yeah, it's really freeing. That's the only word I got for it.
I think that's part of the joy of biking for babies and our
Hmm.
mission at large, right? We could do any number of activities to raise awareness for and funds for pregnancy centers that support women and children, but there's something so special about biking that is very joyous. Like you said, it's very freeing, and it opens up our minds to have space to pray, right? To not have to worry about like the next thing, especially when we're going on these long bike rides.
Hmm.
People have asked us with Bike for Babies, why don't y'all do shorter rides that more people can do? But there's something about the longevity of these, 100-mile rides that gives you the mental space and capacity to be able to pray, to be able to be quiet, right? That we're not afforded in other places. So I know you shared that you kind of got into cycling in college and did the sprints with the little 500, but then really found your place in endurance rides. How specifically did you find yourself preparing for this ride, both physically and spiritually?
So really just I think my specialty in endurance is, well, one, it's due to growing up with six brothers and the fact
Mm-hmm.
that I have a crazy metabolism where I can just eat and eat and eat, which is usually the limiting factor, right? If you have all these carbs that you're converting to energy and you have a certain amount of, it keeps glycerin levels up and you can just
Mm-hmm.
keep going. And so I have a kind of a gift in that I've
Yeah.
noticed, a lot of people, it takes them years to train their gut to eat a certain amount of carbs an hour without getting nauseous or just
Mm.
physically being able to eat it. And that wasn't really a problem for me. Um, and so that allowed me to really, um, you know, push in a lot of these events. And so after my first year, I kind of set out to do like 100-mile ride in under 5 hours. So I kind of trained
Okay.
for that over the summer, and I did that in a little less than 5 hours. And then the next year, I wanted to do 200 miles in under 12 hours. That was like really easy for me when I did it. I did it
That
in a
was
little over
easy for you?
I did it in a little over 11. Yeah, it was just
Wow.
like, I mean, it was just like carb loading, eating carbs on it, not stopping. So
Yeah.
like on this 11-hour ride, my feet were on the ground for maybe 20 minutes total.
Wow.
And that's when I started being like, okay, I think this is just like on my own on like a local trail, going back and forth, for 11
Mm-hmm.
hours. People kept looking at me but I kind of felt that I had, a specialty in this and that it was something I was good at. Like I was okay at the sprints. And I'll touch a little bit on that and kind of preparing. But yeah, I'm also like a bigger guy. I'm 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's if you're this tall and you're trying to competitively cycle, you really have to be like insanely slim, and I just don't think I'm really built for that specifically. So
Sure.
like you'll see guys in like the Tour de France who are 6'4" and 150 pounds, and
Yeah.
they're just I mean they have to have professional dietitians and all this stuff to maintain that. But so I kind of found my specialty in being able to use being tall and bigger, just being able to push out speed for on flat for 11 hours.
Right.
Um, and so I signed up for the 24-hour national championship um, in where was that? In North Carolina and New Bern, North Carolina. So like it's pretty near the Atlantic.
Okay.
Um, and so we went out there, me and my friend Isaac, and he was my pit crew. And I did all this research into exactly what I was going to eat and exactly how many miles I wanted to do. Um, and so um, it went basically perfectly according to plan. And their final tally was 400 miles for the 24 hours, and my feet were on the ground for 23 minutes for the whole
Oh
day.
my God.
And I burned
That's crazy.
burned 17,000 calories and just
I'm sure
I
you
got
did.
first in my age group. I got top 10 in the overall. Um, and that was just that kind of opened a lot of doors for me to be like, okay, this is something I'm good at. And then
Mhm.
that following spring, I competed in the 12-hour national championship in Ohio, and I placed third in that. And it
Wow.
was crazy windy day. That was a hard one.
I was about
Um,
to say good win, like from the back.
no, because I mean it's a loop, but it's still 22-mile-per-hour winds. They're still gonna
Shoo.
for 12 hours is still a mental battle.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, so that was summer of 24, 24, no, 25. Yeah. And so that summer, me and my teammate Sean, who are the returning riders for Godspeed for this last year, which was our senior year,
Mm.
um, really wanted to just kind of push it. And so I really just did a ton of miles in the summer last summer. I cut about 20 pounds and then just really focused in, did all this research, talked to all these other coaches and stuff on training plan. And so, I focused really in on nutrition and training, and then
Mhm.
also making sure the training was like backed by, science and all this other stuff to make sure what we were doing actually really helped. And that
Yes.
was just monumental in taking us from, where we were at to where we were in the spring. But the other thing
Mhm.
is all of that is very, very sprint focused.
Okay.
So like reducing lactic threshold so you're able to go at a certain level for a lot longer. And then also it's really focused on acceleration. Just with the way that the race goes, you accelerate to get back into the pack, you accelerate to get out to give the next guy time to get in.
Mm.
Um, and then also the pack just speeds up and slows down super rapidly.
Mhm.
And so that was really what we were focusing on. So that was my background coming into the summer. And I knew the race is in late April, right? And I start
Mhm.
a few weeks after. And so it's not like I'm going to have time. That time I basically just need a rest. So it was not ideal training for it. I had this endurance
Yep.
background and I really focused in on sprinting for like 9 months. Um, but I kind of paired that with um, like the years, but like that's what I had done. Like this summer, I do this endurance, so I was kind of used to it in that way.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but I kind of made up for that with just the insane amount of planning that I've done, just with how long I was planning the trip. Um,
I think I saw like it was like 3 years of planning, something like that,
yeah, a
right?
little over 2 years. Yeah. I mean, after I did that, like those longer rides, I just kind of set a goal. I was like, it would be awesome right when I graduate to bike across the country.
Mhm.
Um, And so, just starting looking at routes, logistics, things like that. And I changed up so many plans throughout it.
Mhm.
Um, but we can talk about that a little later. But this preparing spiritually for it was definitely something, I was like, all right, well, I don't really know how dangerous it's going to be or anything. So I was like, definitely
Yeah.
get the confession beforehand.
Yep.
Right for the trip. Um, but it was, yeah, it was a lot of, I was just excited for it, really.
Yeah.
So preparing for it spiritually kind of looked like that. Making sure that whatever my prayer routine is, I'm still able to do.
Mhm.
Um, Regardless of how busy I am each day or how many hours I'm on the bike. And then, yeah, I mean, a lot of the families I stayed with were, Catholic and Christian, and so it was really cool being able to talk about faith with them throughout it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then staying at like a few churches was really cool too. And getting to mass when I can. Definitely, I mean, every Sunday, but on weekdays or doing a holy hour, which did not happen very often just based on where I ended up each day. But
Sure.
um, yeah, preparing spiritually for it was just a lot of, trust that all these little things I was really nervous about, flying with my bike for the first time, that
Mhm.
the equipment wasn't going to fall apart, that a part of my bike wasn't going to break. I was just like, all right, if you want this to happen, it'll happen, like if my frame snaps and I'm like, okay, that's just, it's time to throw my stuff in a bag and book a flight home or,
Yep.
and so,
Clarity there.
yeah. And so, and I was like, if you want to come together, and that, I mean, that last week was I probably spent 30 hours alone planning it
Mm,
before flying out on Sunday,
yeah,
just in that week. So that was, that was a lot there. Like just really just, planning all day, going to mass, praying, and but it really came together. And there were so many times where I just saw, the Lord's hand, just like on so many like things where you're just like, all right, is this it? And then the next day, I'm still going.
that's right. What did prayer look like for you on the ride? I mean, you obviously you didn't have support with you. You had no sag wagon following you, which that probably would have been nice. But you were, I mean, you were taking care of all your own logistics. Like,
Yeah.
how did you, yeah, how did you find prayer time uh on the bike and to be locked into that, or did it look different for you?
On the bike, I mean, it's just, a matter of like just silence, there's like you can only listen to music and podcasts and audiobooks for so long. Um, but it was just a lot of, silence and contemplation and kind of mental prayer there. But every morning, making sure I get in morning prayer before getting on the road, which the mornings where I usually try to get on the road around 5:30.
Okay.
So just a lot of really early mornings. Um, but always making sure I do morning prayer and then a rosary while I'm on the bike at least. Um, and then, night prayer and then just some kind of silence on the bike for, you know, long periods of time. Just kind of
Yeah.
contemplation, stuff like that. And then, mass and holy hour when I can. Uh, and then planning out like making sure on the weekends I'm able to get to mass or, planning the routes around that.
Liam, what would you say was the inspiration for doing this with biking for babies? You know, you could have done this for any number of causes,
Yeah.
or just for fun, right? No one's stopping you from doing it for fun. But like, what was it that made you feel like doing this journey for biking for babies and therefore for the unborn, for women served at
hmm
pregnancy centers? Like, what was it that kind of grabbed your attention there?
Yeah. So my freshman year, I talked to some people at the Seek conference at the Biking for Babies booth because I was just getting into cycling. I think they gave me a shirt and then they kind of were like, yeah, tell your friends about it because I was like, oh, I'm on Catholic cycling team. And then one of my teammates from that year, from like the first year where we were just kind of figuring it all out, he ended up doing it last year.
Who is
Um,
that?
Isaac Brown.
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah,
good.
he's a character. um, yeah. And so I think he's doing it again this year.
Yeah.
And so we always talked about, you know, doing it, and it was always kind of there. But I had that summer I was super busy working. It was also kind of a quick turnaround. Like I was not biking very much at that point. Like I just kind of picked it up.
Hmm.
Um, and then the next summer, I talked to them again at the Seek that winter. Um, and then they sent me some like promotional stuff. Or maybe it was the year after. Forget. I think it was the year after. And then I had an internship I couldn't take time off to do. So I was definitely interested in doing like the national ride each year. Then the
Hmm.
summer after that, I had another internship, which was really intense. And so, each year I was not able to do the national ride, but I had been planning this trip. So like I had it like circled out on my calendar. And then I saw at some point someone had like this person finished on some social media a
Hmm.
ride from here to there, as a fundraiser. And
Hmm.
I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, oh, that's something. And then I started, my friend Isaac did it that summer. I started thinking more about it. Um, and then the big turning point when I was thinking about, like obviously the cause is a huge part for me. I grew up in middle of 10, very involved with it. I think, it's something I'm very passionate about.
Hmm.
Um, but logistically, I mean, you have to, you're planning this route in all these cities you're stopping, you're feeding yourself, you're trying to keep the gear light, and you're trying to find a place to stay each night. And
Hmm.
it occurred to me, I was like, I could do this for something where people would be like, really glad to host me, and then also very supportive of doing it for something that's not just me for my own kicks and giggles, which should be great, but also
Hmm.
it means a lot more when you're, when there's something bigger than just yourself. And then also you're getting a lot more people involved in it. It's,
Yes.
you're reaching so many more people, and also you're not losing your mind being alone every day for 10 hours. You're able to sit down and, have basically this conversation we're having,
Yeah.
every day for a month, and it never got old. And then meeting the people never felt like a chore, no matter how tired I
Mhm.
was, it was always just a pleasure to sit down and have dinner with so many different people. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, a lot of, honestly, I had these like detailed notes with who I was staying with, like their number, the email, and then like the thread of conversations and their
Mhm.
address and stuff like that. But a lot of the times I'd show up on the doorstep, and there's, 25 host families, or I think there's like 23. And like I would have no idea how it came to be, whether it was you guys helping me find the family, whether it was me just emailing a parish,
Yeah.
and asking if they have a host family, whether it was, a friend of a friend. And then so always figuring out that, and then them being like, how did you hear about, like, we just got a text from this guy. I'm like, I've never heard that name in my life.
Oh my God.
Like that happened probably 10 times. Um,
Wow.
so that was also really fun. You know, but
Did you
just, yeah.
remember whose house you were going to? Like when you rode up to someone's house, did you remember who lived there? Or you just like, "Hey, I'm Liam. Who are you again?"
Well, I would check the notes like for the address and stuff as I was getting close. So like I'd be like, oh, this is Ted and Robin. Like this is, them for this day. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I would know that, and they'd be expecting me. I would communicate with them throughout the day, being like, this is my ETA, which would
Mm.
change often, but um, yeah.
I can imagine like just getting to know so many people and getting to share what you're doing with them and then
Mhm.
hearing their life stories too and
Yeah.
why they even said yes to having some random guy biking across the country stay with them. I mean,
Yep.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. I would love to know, I mean, you shared a lot of like really beautiful moments that have happened or and did happen on this journey. And so I would love to know, maybe conversely, like what are some of the things that were big struggles for you, we'll get to more highs in a second, but like what were some of your lows that you experienced on this ride?
Yeah. I definitely don't want to minimize that. There were a lot. There were definitely
As there probably
lows.
should be, as you're riding
Yeah.
across the country.
I would say most of them were in the first half.
Mm,
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I would say when I set out, I didn't think I'd make it, all the
yeah.
way. I was so sure something would go wrong. It just didn't, or my, body would fall apart, or there'd be a ticket in
Hmm.
my knee, and I was just like, this is it. And there were so many times where I was like, this is it. Um, but the first one was definitely, um, the first week. There's just so many small parts about the gear, whether it's your packs rubbing up against the tire,
Mm,
and you having to like, I literally like took granola bars and I taped it around this little metal piece to hold it in place on the panniers on the sides of my bike.
yes.
um and just like, you know zip zip ties to different parts and moving things around, like that was a lot, and then figuring out like, um at the end of the day, you pull your bike into someone's garage and then you have to get all your stuff to the room and then back, and you're trying to minimize the time in the morning because you're already waking
Hmm.
up. And you have like, I mean, honestly, a really hard part is I probably got 7 hours of sleep on average, which is,
Okay.
you know, one, probably I usually probably get around 8 or 9, which is a lot,
Hmm.
but when you're biking that much, you want, 10 to 11. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that definitely became a struggle. The rest days helped a lot, catch up on that. But just, with this, just the schedule and getting up at, 4:30, 4:45, and then it took, an hour to get going in the morning. Just by nature of, pumping up the tires, living up the chain,
Hmm.
making sure everything's in the right spot, having to stop and get groceries right before you go out and making sure all that. So that, getting going in the morning was always a struggle, but so fixing all the gear the first week, nothing really too big, but then I got into the Rockies, and just the elevation gain and
Yeah.
the altitude was really rough. I
Mm.
had kind of like on and off, but mostly on, headaches for like 3 days. That would get really intense, especially in the evenings. Because I mean, you're climbing up a mountain for a few hours and then you're just descending a few thousand feet in a number of minutes. And so that just really affects, you're gonna get a headache,
That's right. Lots
essentially.
of pressure.
But also the air's thinner, so you're not getting as much oxygen, and it's a lot harder just to do everything, and you're a lot more tired, and you don't even really realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're pairing that with the fact that you're climbing up, each day the most elevation you've ever done. And so by the time I made it to one of the steepest days and the day with the biggest climb, which is a 4,000-foot climb up Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado, my knees, like specifically like my kneecaps, really hurt, especially my right one. And I had I have like a compression sleeve for it I was wearing, but it just was not helping. I was like shifting the way I was pedaling a lot, trying to just relieve some of the pain, but it was really, really intense. And so it was a 3.5 hour climb up the hill, and I was just like, this is what, as I was doing, I was like, this is just really bad for my knee right now. Like, I'm gonna really hurt it. And I was like, I think this is, this might be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it just took so long, and it was so steep. It really, really was tough, and I had already had a few days in a row of really steep days, and I knew the next day uh, was almost as much elevation, was 2 more mountain passes I had to climb. And so that's just sitting in the front of my head as I'm climbing up. And so I get to the top, I'm at 10,800 feet. And then, I got to go downhill for basically the rest of the day. Yeah, so that was really nice. And then that night I was like, all right, I think I have to take a rest day. Um, uh, so the next day I didn't bike at all. And then I kind of adjusted my seat height a little bit, shifted stuff around. And then the next day after that was my last day in the Rockies. And it was a lot easier than the days before, or the 2 days before. But I really thought that it was over that day. I was like, it was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And
And you'd
just
ask
going,
for clarity, right? Like you'd ask
yeah,
for God to be like very clear with you, like if it's my
yeah,
time to be done, like then that's it. So,
yeah. And got to the top, and I was like, all right, I'll take a rest day. Felt good enough to try, and then the next day there was really no pain.
wow.
And then I got to, after that, you're out of the Rockies, you're going into Kansas, it's super flat, so it's so much easier. But the thing that really got me in the Rockies, I think, is even in my lowest gear, you're putting so much pressure on your knees because you have 45 to 50 pounds of equipment that you're not used to carrying. And that is just absolutely brutal. It's
Yeah.
so much extra pressure on your knees because you're out of the saddle, you're moving back and forth, trying to climb up this hill, and it's just, taking forever. And then also you're exhausted because of the air. It was just a combination of a lot of things at once, and that really affects, your mental space. And so there doesn't seem when there's multiple problems kind of stacking up like that, it's really hard to see through. They just all feel really big.
Yeah.
But the knee issue was really big. But but I got through it. And then felt great going into Kansas. And then I raised my seat a little bit. I had gotten a bike shop in Bloomington. It's very kind. They gave me a free bike fitting. It
Oh,
was super
nice.
cool. They like put all these sensors all over it, sense like the pressure, they found like your pressure points, gave me a specific saddle, adjusted everything. It was really fancy.
Shout out bike shop. It's awesome.
Yeah, Bloomington bicycles, yeah. Um, and so I had like that height, but I also was like, I can't, you know, it's different for the flat versus the hills, like a little bit. You have a little wiggle room. And so I raised it just to relieve some of the pressure, and then I pulled my Achilles going into
Oh,
Kansas City. And
gosh.
I don't know if like how much I pulled it, how bad it was, but it started swelling and it was just insane pain for that
Mm,
day. And it just like I just slowly started noticing it, like maybe mile 60, and it was like a 125-mile day.
mm-hmm.
It's also the start of like the hottest period of the trip. And I got into Kansas City and I was like, I gotta do something. I was staying with a family friend there, and he was like, I was like, I think tomorrow morning, I'm gonna take anything I don't need, absolutely need, and ship it. Like, I haven't used all these, like a few of these things. Like I made sure I'd always keep like an emergency kit and stuff. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I shipped my tent, my sleeping pad, all of that, which wasn't super heavy, but 5 to 10 pounds of
Enough.
gear is gonna help.
Yeah.
So he was kind enough to ship that for me. And I shipped it to like a house where I'd be later in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, okay, I think I might need the tent for, some point in Appalachia, where I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have stays. But that helped a little bit. Um, but the big thing then was I was like, okay, this is this could be really bad because like, you use your foot a lot when biking.
Just a
Um,
little, every once in a while.
that pain was a lot, and again, I was just like, this is it. This time I was pretty sure it was it. I had
Mm,
to walk up all the hills, which adds a long time and is
yeah.
really hard to do. And so I get 10 miles into the ride the next day out of Kansas City, and there's kind of a thunderstorm coming, a lot of rain. So I pull into like a McDonald's and just waited out for an hour, and it was sunny for the rest of the day. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, this pain, like it's still really there. Nothing really, I iced it and tried all this stuff. But what I ended up doing was switching out of my bike shoes, which are like have the clip-ins to the pedals, to
Mm-hmm.
just my sandals that I had, which are kind of bulky, and I have these, small pedals that you clip into, so there's not a lot of surface area there, and my
Yeah.
feet are kind of cover it. And so I tried that, and there was no pain at all.
Wow.
I was using the ball of my foot, and like moving my foot around a lot more than um that's what you use when you're biking with the clip-in shoes, but I was using the heel, um, and keeping my Achilles perfectly straight when
Mm-hmm.
cycling, and there was no pain. And so I got through that day. That was the day before my longest